Hello once again, Warhammer fans. My name is Trevor Selescu and I'm the owner of Monster Hobbies in High River, Alberta, Canada. So today we are going to open up a Start Collecting box, the Anvilgard box, which is really cool, part of the Cities of Sigmar set. So without further ado, let's go down to the bench and see what's in the box. Now we go all the way to the city of Anvilgard, where we get to check out this amazing Start Collecting box by Games Workshop for the Age of Sigmar. What you get in this kit is the Charybdis, the Black Ark Fleet Master, Black Ark Corsairs, and a Scourge Runner Chariot. You can also build the Chariot as a Drakespawn Chariot, and you can change the Charybdis into the Hydra. Looking at the back of the box, we get a little bit of a history of the city of Anvilgard, and we also get paint callouts from Citadel Games Workshop so that we know what colors to paint the Charybdis, the Black Ark Corsairs, the Black Ark Fleet Master, and the Scourge Runner Chariot. The instruction sheet for this model kit comes in full color. On the inside of the instructions, you get an organization chart for the Anvilgard in English, French, Spanish, German, and Italian. However, these are no longer really used in Age of Sigmar 3. Our instruction sheet begins with an explanation of the symbols involved, like the choice of parts, the variant assembly, repeating process, and a stage complete checkmark. We begin by assembling our Black Ark Fleet Master by gluing on the sword to his body shell, his boot leg, and his peg leg. Then the front component goes on, followed by his head and this piece, oh that's his arm over there. And then this model kit was originally on a square base, so it shows you how to cut the bottom part of the square base off so you still have his stand, and glue that onto a round base for the Age of Sigmar. And then you also can glue his hair on, and there's our completed checked off model at the end. Our next assembly procedure is on our Black Ark Corsairs, and as you can see, you repeat this process 10 times, gluing leg pieces onto bases. Remember to scrape down our seam lines as we go along, and here are the 10 alternate style legs. And once you get them all together, this is what you are looking for with this completed step. Our next step is to assemble the Corsair Reaver components, which consist of the cape back and the armored front, and you just glue them together. So the Black Ark Corsairs can be built with your choice of either the 2 swords or 1 sword and a repeater crossbow. So what we see here is the completed upper half gluing onto the legs, and then there's the hands with the 2 swords and our 2-piece head going together, as well as some additional weaponry. And there's our completed model of the captain. Panel 4 shows the rest of the chest pieces gluing onto the capes, and then the capes gluing onto the legs, and this is what we are going after here. Panel 5 shows all the different heads you can use on your model kits, as well as the different helmet attachment pieces. Panel 6 shows the vicious blade pieces going into place, which is one of the options on how to build your Black Ark Corsairs. Here we have the repeater handbow for that unit as well. And panel 7 shows the Wicked Cutlass arms, as well as the repeater handbows for that set of figures. Panel 8 shows our Corsair standard bearer, and here we have the standard going on, and your choice of either the squid head or the serpent dragon. And then you'd simply attach an arm onto your already built bodies, and that will be your banner. And then you attach the head and one of the cutlass sword blades, and this is what your completed model will look like. Panel 9A shows our Corsair musician going together, and for this model you want to use some of those previous leg and body torso components. You glue on your seafarer horn, and then your head and the cutlass blade, and there is your completed musician. Panel 9 shows the regular Corsair with your choice of either the Wicked Cutlass or the Vicious Blade going in place, and then you add your heads on, and there's the rest of your remaining unit all put together. Panels 11 to 14 show our Scourge Runner Chariot being glued together. Here we have the harness being assembled for our horses, which will be running this chariot, as well as the skid plate and the body. Panel 11B shows the interesting mono-wheel assembly on this Chariot, one right in the center, which would make it pretty interesting to try to keep your feet away from getting caught in the wheel as it goes. However, here it is. Panel 11C shows the sides of our Chariot being glued together with our spears mounted in the casings on the side. Panel 11D shows these detail pieces being glued to the side of the Chariot toward the back end. Panels 11E and F show the different types of harpoons being attached to the sides and their locations in relationship to the hook spears. And in panels 13A, B, and C, you get the option of either building the passenger carrying the Ravager harpoon gun or the repeater crossbow. Panel 14A show the assembly of the horses, which are the driving force of this Chariot. Panel 14B shows the driver and the crewman being attached into the Chariot and how the harnesses go on the backs of the horses, as well as the location of both of the figures. Panel 14C shows our completed model being glued to the base and the location and side view profiles of the model as it rests on the base. This is what you are going for in your completed build. Our final model kit to build in our Anvilgard box is the mighty Charybdis, and here is the crew of handlers that keep this monster in line and the assembly there. So basically it's 2 whips, a head, a body, and this piece that glues on, which will be mounted onto the base for our first crew, and our second crew is the body with head and everything attached, mounted onto this sort of chain spear thing to poke the monster. And then in 17A, we actually start to build the Charybdis, and here's its body being glued together in all these different panels. So here you get the left and right body shell, then you start to glue the feet on into place, and then here we're gluing the bottom of the tail on. This is a rock that it's standing on, which will be on the base, and then we've got its hind leg in 2 pieces going together here. Next we have the end piece for the Charybdis tail, gluing into place, as well as this component here, which is sort of a front part of the Charybdis. This is what we're going for in this assembly. Now down here we start to attach the upper arms and the spine pieces, and then in here we're getting into the neck of one of the many heads on the Charybdis. Then we get the mouth pieces gluing on, and then here's the main head being glued onto the body, and this is what it will look like in the end. Since the Charybdis is a mighty creature with 5 heads, we have to assemble the other 4 heads, and this is how it all ends up going together, and then the 4 heads glue onto the body. Make sure you follow this sequence, otherwise you might have some heads crashing into the others. And this is what our completed Charybdis model will look like from the right-hand side, from the rear and the back, and from the left-hand side. Finally, we mount our Charybdis model onto the base, with the handlers toward the back, egging on the Charybdis into battle. And this is what your completed model kit will look like with the Charybdis on the base from the right-hand view, and from the 3/4 front view. And here is our first parts tree. This is the Black Ark Fleet Master, and he is armed with the Black Ark Cutlass and a murder hook, and he's also wearing the Sea Dragon Cloak, which you can see here is very nicely done with all the scales. He does look like a sea creature, of course. There's the sea-type base. Now this was molded in 2012 when we were still in Warhammer Fantasy 8th edition, so you can see that he is mounted on a square base, which again is easy to cut off and sand down and attach to a round circle base. But this will still give you the proper proportions of how he's standing and all of that sort of thing. So again, very nice work by the Games Workshop on a very excellent little model. Our next parts tree shows all the pieces that we need to build the Black Ark Corsairs, and these are very amazing as well. There's all those nice capes, and you can see the scales along the back. Turning it over, you can also see the nice pieces up top, and the inside of the scales on the actual cloaks. Then we have the legs in place, as well as some of the faces. These are the little ones for the repeater crossbows, and there's our octopus, or squid head actually, as well as a sea dragon. The banner is basically devoid of any detail, except for the folds, which is always nice. because then you can either use the kit supplied decal sheet or paint your own motifs on there. You can see all the cutlasses and all the great components that make up this parts tree. Our next parts tree shows the pieces needed to build the Scourge Runner chariots. You can also build the Drakespawn chariots out of the same parts tree, as there are many different sides to the chariots. For example, this one with the spears and the one beside it without. So again, multiple uses for this same parts tree. There's our single wheel for running in the middle, as well as a platform that the crew stand on. Speaking of the crew, there they are in their glory. You get a bunch of different versions of the crew for, I guess, different take on the riders. Unfortunately, they don't give you the instructions for the Drakespawn chariot, so if you want to build it, you're a little left on your own devices, unless, of course, you buy a Drakespawn chariot from Games Workshop and look at the instructions on it. But again, many nice pieces with very great detail on them. The next parts tree is actually either the Drakespawns or the horses used to run the Scourge Runner chariot. So as you can see, the tree is divided in half, with one half being the horses and the other half being the Drakespawn. The Drakespawn are really nice. Again, look at all the scales and great detail on here. Games Workshop really does build a great model kit. Very awesome. Flipping it up and over, you can see the horses for the Scourge Runner chariot. And again, very nice detail. There are some scales on the horses. I don't know if they're seahorses, supposedly, or if that's just part of the armor, much like the cloaks on the other guys. Pardon me, losing my train of thought. Anyway, again, great pieces from Games Workshop. And our last two parts trees deal with the Charybdis, which you can also build as the War Hydra. So as we move this sprue into the camera here, we can see the great detailing on the body, as well as the tail ends and some of the side pieces of our Charybdis. We also get the arms and legs and a few Hydra heads on these parts trees, as well as the crew for the Charybdis, or the handlers, I should say. And again, there's some very excellent detailing on here. It looks like one of the handlers is female, while the other one is male. So again, very nicely done by the Games Workshop. And here's our final parts tree, which is the Charybdis heads and necks, as well as the head and necks for the Hydra. What's interesting is the Charybdis has 5 heads on it, with one being a gigantic head right here. And the Hydra has 6 heads. So there's the 6 there, which are smaller, of course, than the Charybdis. However, again, the detail on here is very nice. As you can see, all the scales and everything. Turning it over, we also have just the same amount of detail on the other side. And again, this makes for a very beautiful monster model. And if you don't have any monsters in your army, this is a good place to start. And last but not least, we are treated to this very nice decal sheet. However, there is one major flaw with this. This is still a Dark Elves transfer sheet from 2013, and it is very unfortunate that they did not release a Cities of Sigmar style decal sheet, which would have all the banners for the new cities on it. However, we are treated to all the different iconography from the original Dark Elves set, which again includes this motif, which is that squid head, so that's not too bad. The coloring on our decal sheet is very brilliant, and they do give you large emblems for the banner, as well as 10 different smaller icons that you could use on the shields for your Dark Elves or your Cities of Sigmar armies, which again would be basically the old Dark Elf armies reborn. But as you can see, there are a lot of motifs and a lot of great decals. And that completes our look at the Games Workshop Anvilgard Start Collecting box for use with Warhammer Age of Sigmar. The only two bad parts about this model kit is that they don't give you instructions to build the War Hydra or the other Chariot, and that the decal sheet is still High Elves when we're now into the Cities of Sigmar. And that logo for Anvilgard should actually look like this, with the squid head and a hammer above it. so it might not be too hard to convert. However, if you have built this model kit in the past, please let us know down in the comments section and share your photos of this on our Facebook page. I'll leave the link in the description below. Well, I hope you enjoyed that great video where we got to unbox the Start Collecting Anvilguard set from the Games Workshop. That's a great set for your Cities of Sigmar armies. So, if you enjoy these great videos and want to help us, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with all your friends and family. Pound that notification bell so that every time I make a new video, you're one of the first ones to see it. And check out what we have in our store at www.monster-hobbies.ca. And until next time, everybody, happy model building and happy wargaming.